Welcome, my name is Bentlage. I am here from Outpace Enterprises in Fairfield, Connecticut. Today we're going to discuss the issues solving track, the IDS portion of your L10 meetings. So I want to start with this quote. I love this quote, is that time isn't the main thing, it's the only thing. Time is our most precious commodity, and the reason it's a big deal is because as managers, our job is to manage resources, right? Manage our people. And the most precious resource we have is the time that we spend with them. So let's jump right into it. During the L10 meetings, I'm assuming most of you understand and have gone through the level 10 meetings. And one of the things that we start with is we start with what's called a scorecard, and we also start with your rocks. And let's talk a little bit about why a scorecard is so important. A scorecard is basically your key performance indicators, your metrics, the things you need to measure on a daily basis, whether it's departmentally or as a company as a whole, to know whether or not the things are getting done that need to get done. So the reason we track it and we want everybody to have at least one number in the company is because this is what's going to tell you if on a day-to-day basis, you know if you're moving in the right direction. And if you're not, this particular number or these numbers will turn red. And we want to know this at every L10 meeting because maybe somebody's reached a capacity level where they're not able to get these numbers achieved. Maybe the numbers are the incorrect numbers, or maybe we stretch too far as to what we think we can get done. So we want to constantly be looking at them, tweaking them, adjusting them. And certainly if they go red, we need to know about it because that's how our company is running and how to keep the company profitable. So this particular picture shows obviously a group of guys here that are building roads. So did we make the progress we made? There's obviously some expectation of how far we're going to get along in each road every day. And did we make that? Did we make that progress? And if we did not, why not? What happened? And are we just not predicting well? Or is it unrealistic to think we could have made as much progress as what we expected in our forecast? So let's just see performance. Again, if it's a manufacturer and you need to know you have to produce 50 widgets a day, and you need to sell 22 million and increase cash by 72,000. Did we get that done? Okay, did we get that done in that weekly period? So it lets us predict performance. Again, another example, if you lose 8 hours in downtime and leads were down by 20% and AR was increased by 18%, then we need to know that. What's wrong? What's happening? How can we fix it? So it's our indicator of operational performance. The next thing we talk about are rocks. And a lot of times people ask, what's more important, your scorecard or your rocks? Because as a manager, you're going to have your own metrics and your own numbers that you need to be performing to, and you're going to have your own rocks that you need to get done. Rocks are basically a 90-day commitment as to what are the most important things that need to get done, what needs our focus in the next 90 days in order for us to hit our 1-year goal, our 3-year picture, and ultimately our 10-year plan. So what are the 90-day rocks? The reason they're 90 days is because it's been shown over and over that basically we have the capacity to focus on something for about 90 days. After that, we need to recalibrate and reset again. So as a group and during our meetings, we're going to figure out what are the most important things that this company has to focus on in the next 90 days. And generally it's about 3 to 5 rocks that we look for. So the rocks are the big things outside the day-to-day, right? For example, if you're a manufacturer, you might need some new machines to increase your workflow. All right, so that would be a project. Who's going to be working on that? CPA has to know what the latest laws are. Laws are constantly changing when it comes to accounting practices, and maybe there's new software that needs to be researched. That's outside the day-to-day of actually doing the business of accounting for their clients. Retailers need to know the latest marketing techniques and what products to sell. So if the scorecard is seeing how well we build a road, the rocks are thinking through where the road needs to be placed. Okay? So they're both equally important. So delivering on rocks and scorecards is a key reason for the L10. This gets down to the accountability, keeping the company and the individuals in the company accountable for getting certain things done is one of the reasons why we have this on our L10 meeting. So the scorecard is telling us if we're having a problem, we want to get in front of it. And again, we meet every week, the same time, the same day, and we are literally just reviewing, are they green or are they red? Is our scorecard green or red? And if something's red, it would drop down to the IDS portion of that meeting. Rocks are telling us that we can't make the most important time investments. We want to get in front of it. So if we're getting behind on our rocks and we agreed as a group that these are the most important things to get done in the next 90 days, then we need to know about it. What's the problem? Let's get around it, all of us together, and find out what we need to do to keep that on track. So the L10 meeting is the forum to make this happen, and it's very, very effective at doing that. So there's no surprises. So let's talk about the L10 format. L10 is the Leadership 10 format. The reason we call it an L10 is because we want all of these meetings to be rated a 10. On a 0 to 10 scale, we want them to be a 10. We want you to look forward to coming to these meetings. You want to get things done at these meetings. And this, to me, is one of my favorite tools of the EOS process, is this L10. Just getting this incorporated into a company will be a game changer for you. So the L10 format, it's a 90-minute format for the leadership team. Sometimes as it gets rolled out to the rest of the company, depending upon the department, it can go to a 60-minute meeting or even a 30-minute meeting. But for these purposes, and this today, we're going to talk about the leadership team L10 format. So it starts with good news, which is a 5-minute segue. The scorecard is 5 minutes. The rock review is 5 minutes. Customer and employee headlines is 5 minutes. And the to-do list review is 5 minutes. The issues list, or the IDS portion, is the whole reason we do these meetings. This is what the priority is to make a really great issues list. And that's 60 minutes of the meeting. No matter where you're at, 5 minutes left to go at the meeting, you stop, you get through as much as you can get through, and then you conclude. You conclude, which includes reading the to-do list for next week, and the meeting ends on time. It will always start on time and it will end on time. So making a great issues list. If the scorecard is red, the team needs to talk. If there's any individual piece of the scorecard that's red, we need to drop it down and we need to talk. That's the meat and potatoes of a business. Those things have to get done on a regular basis, or we need to know about it. If the rocks are red, the team needs to talk. Why are the rocks off track? What do you need? Where do you need help? What do we need to do to help get you back on track on that? If the to-dos are not getting done, the team needs to talk. A to-do is really an assignment from last week's meeting that should be done in no more than 7 days. In many cases, it's something that can be done right after the meeting. But if to-dos are not getting done, we need to talk. So before asking anyone for additional issues that they may want to add, the issues list should already be populating with these important items. So these will get in there first. So don't get used to red. We've had this happen with leadership teams where something's red on the scorecard 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and it's not being discussed. We're not here to watch the red. We're here to talk about, why is it red? What do we need to do to get it green? Or is it not the right number? Did we overshoot for the number? Is it impossible to do? So we have to discuss that. A good scorecard takes a long time to really get right, and it's changing. It's evolving all the time as the company is growing. So the scorecard is constantly being looked at, constantly being evaluated, and if it needs to be changed, then we change it. Okay? The first shot, if you're not used to doing this, is really kind of your best guess at what we need to look at. So if your scorecard or your rocks are red, you're losing the game. You're losing the game. So imagine a soccer team loses a game 9-1. So the team meets, they discuss what went wrong, and they come up with a new game plan. And the meeting rating was a 10. Game 2, the soccer team loses again, 9-1. The team meets, discuss what went wrong, comes up with a new game plan. Game 3, the soccer team loses again 9-1. What do you think the next meeting will be like? Frustrated, intense, something's got to change mentally. It won't be a 10. So that's what we're saying. If you're constantly getting red, it needs to be discussed and it needs to be dropped down. So creating a great issues list. Scorecard, each red item is mission critical. Absolutely. Rocks, each off track item is mission critical. To-dos not done. Each missed to-do is a statement in integrity and reliability. If you've got people that are continually not getting the to-dos done that they've committed to the week before, there's an accountability problem. What I love about this process is there's nowhere to hide. It's not that we're trying to catch people. It's also giving people credit for all the stuff they're getting done, because this is getting captured. So week after week, month after month, year after year, you can look back and you really see everything that's getting done by people, but you're also seeing if they're not getting it done. Issues being raised, serious items that need to get fixed. This is the venue for it. As opposed to, like most managers, I've had this in my past as well, where you're walking down the hall and somebody's grabbing you. Hey, we have this, and this problem. And I'm like, oh yeah, let me get back to you on it. Or I'm getting an email saying, hey, what are we going to do about this? Oh, I don't know. Let me talk to my partner and I'll get back to you on it. You're getting bombarded all the time with really things that do need attention. People are frustrated because they're not getting the answers they need. And it's because you haven't had a format to put this into, to keep it into an area where things are getting discussed and getting done. So again, what are the top 3 issues we should talk about? This should not be a boring or quiet meeting. We're looking for input. The reason people are on a leadership team is we want their input. This is not to have a ton of yes people there saying, oh yes, whatever you come up with, Karen, we're going to agree to that. I don't want that. I want thinkers. We want people that are really thinking and giving their viewpoint. And this is going to be a safe environment to do that for the greater good of the company. This is where we take off our individual hats of what our jobs are, and we look at what's best for the company to get where the company needs to go. So the issue solving track, let's talk about that. Here's an example on the right side that shows 7 different issues. Website rock off track. Darren Yu, is he the right person? And Andy S, is that person in the right seat? Our sales are off track. We're having a merger with another company. Is our utilization off track? And Western U.S. expansion. So say these are all on our issues list. So we jump in and here it shows that somebody prioritized or people yelled out that they wanted to talk about number 3 first, number 1 second, and number 5 3. So we'd go to number 1. We'd also have whose issue that was. And if it was my issue, they would say, okay, Karen, this is your issue. Andy S, right seat. Can you in 1 sentence give us the problem you're trying to solve? And I would explain, I'm not sure if Andy's in the right seat. He doesn't seem to have the capacity. Does he GWC his job? You've probably heard that term. Does he get it? Does he want it? Does he have the capacity to do it? I'm concerned about it, and maybe I'm just not seeing things right, or maybe we have to take some work off his plate, but I want to discuss that. But again, as the facilitator, you're saying, what is the issue you're trying to solve in 1 sentence? Because again, go back to that time quote. Time is our most precious commodity. We want to make this efficient. We don't want rambling. We don't want politicking. We don't want people saying their answer more than once. We just want to get to what the problem is and make sure it's identified right. And then what are we going to do to solve? So identify, discuss, and solve. The identification, I can't say this enough, is very, very important. Make sure we're identifying the problem properly, that it's not something masking another problem. And you'll understand this once you get into these meetings. Sometimes we're solving the wrong thing. So the identification is really key. Like, what is the problem we're trying to solve? Get that really concrete into 1 sentence if possible. Discuss it. People can ask questions. You go around once. Again, you're not repeating yourself. That's politicking. You're just weighing in and getting clear on what it is. And then, okay, let's move to solve. What are we going to do to solve it? What are the ideas? We throw them out there. All right, to be clear, engage issue solving is 3 separate steps. Like I said, the issue, the discussion, and the solve. Be very deliberate when you are switching from one phase to the next. It's a different mindset. When people are thinking about what the issue really is, that's one thing. When you say, okay, let's move to solve, that switches your brain into a solving mode. Now, okay, we know what the problem is. Let's move to solve. So each step is a different type of thinking, and it definitely takes practice. I love this quote by Albert Einstein. If I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about solutions. We don't spend enough time thinking about problems. We're trying to get them off our plate, especially if we're busy. It's like, oh, there's a problem. Boom, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. And we are constantly throwing bad solves at issues because we're not spending time discussing it. We're just trying to get it off our plate, even if it's temporary. Like, I don't really want to deal with that issue. Let's just do this for now and we'll figure it out later. That wastes so much time. It's better to have a format where you're discussing it, thinking about it, and solving it once and for all. We're not looking for quick fixes. We're not looking to put Band-Aids on things. We're looking to get that solved and move on. Are we going to make mistakes? Of course we're going to make mistakes. But with this type of thinking, it's going to be way less, and it's going to save you a lot of time. Be relentless on identification. So, hey, John, can you frame up this issue for us? Many times, we get sidetracked here and John's going to want to give a 10-minute explanation of the issues. Okay? We don't. We want to drive to a simple question. What is the problem we are trying to solve in a sentence? I know I'm repeating myself, but just as a side note, people need to hear things on average 7 times to internalize them once. So repeating yourself over and over again, even with your people and your team, is a very good rule of thumb. So, we want to know, what is the problem we're trying to solve in one sentence? And like a dog with a bone, don't let it go. If again, John goes off into another tangent, just bring it back. John, what is the problem we're trying to solve in one sentence? Be relentless on asking that question, because it'll get John's mind thinking, how do I explain this in one sentence? Because that's all we're going to accept. It'll be helpful to let everyone see it written down on a whiteboard or on the screen. So again, what is it? Write it out so everybody can see it. Prevent excessive discussion. Cut off speeches. Rich, I think we understand your point. Joey, I'm sorry, but we need to get to this a little faster. And Rick, I need to cut you off for time reasons. I'm sorry. So if people are really going on about speeches and, using too many words to get their point across on what they feel the solve is, you need to cut it off. If you're hearing people repeat things, we consider that politicking. We heard you the first time. It's like you're trying to really drive in your point because you want it your way. We heard it once. We don't need to hear it more than once. Maintain a spirit of impatience on the discussion portion. So it's like, we want to get to as many things as possible to solve in this track, and we don't want to spend a disproportionate amount of time on one thing because people are just not getting their thoughts down. Be clear in the transition, the solve portion. Be explicit. Okay, we need to solve. What is our solution? So once everybody goes around and there's nothing new being added, great, let's move to solve. People will shift from discussing all the things to think about to proposing solutions. And that's what you want here. You want everybody's proposed solution. 90% of the time, the solve involves to-dos. So whatever the solve is that's agreed upon, or that the implementer is saying, this is what we're going to go with, somebody's going to get a to-do on it, or multiple people will get to-dos on this solve. Wrap up with, what are our to-dos? So at the end of all the solving that we do, somebody again is scribing out who got what to-dos. We reread those at the end of the meeting. And again, this is an accountability thing. You may have forgot that in the beginning of the IDS portion that you agreed to do this to-do. Well, here it is. It's in writing. You agreed to do it. And we're going to check on this next week to see that it got done. Note that a solve is what we think will fix the problem. We won't really know if the solve will actually fix the problem until we do it. But no decision is also a decision. And there's an old saying, which I personally really believe as well, even a bad decision is better than no decision. Okay, yeah, we're going to make mistakes. We're not going to get it right every time, but okay, we'll come back next week, we'll rethink, and we'll get better at it. The way we get better at this muscle is by using it on a weekly basis. So we eliminate the issue with the expectation that the solve will work. And you don't want anybody leaving the meeting saying, well, I think that was a stupid solve. I don't think that's going to work. This is a group meeting where we're looking at the company and we have to all be unified. Even if you didn't necessarily agree with the solve, you have to stand behind it. And if it didn't work, great. We'll come up with some more solutions next week. And if it doesn't work, obviously the issue is going to come back. Hang up number 1, breaking complex issues into pieces. So often problems take 5 to 10 minutes to explain. And this will happen. You'll see people, they're not used to having to frame it in like a one sentence. So in order to break them down into bite-sized pieces, ask this question relentlessly. What is the problem we're trying to solve in one sentence? I promise you, this will become your friend if you're using this. If you're using it, if you're a manager and you're using it with your team meetings, what is the problem we're trying to solve in a sentence? If an issue turns into several issues, simply add them to the issues list. So if you see it spiraling, like, well, we thought it was this, but this, and this, we may have 5 separate issues that were trying to be wrapped up into this one. Let's break it down into all the different issues on the issues list. Bite-sized issues are easy to solve. Hang up number 2 is the fearless leader is looking for consensus. So if you're the integrator in this company, then you need to, when people are not in unison on things, and that'll happen more often than not, you have to make the decision. So some issues will not achieve consensus. Some will, but many won't. In these situations, the meeting leader needs to make a decision. A big reason that IDSing gets hung up is because the leadership team is split on what to do. This is why we call the fearless leader, because At some point, even though it's like 3 over here want to do it this way, 3 want to do it this way, you have to make the decision. You have to make the call. And everybody has to be a grown up and go, okay, that's her job. That's not an easy job. That's her job or his job to make that call, but you have to back it even if it's not what you thought would be the best call. How do we know if we're doing it well? You know you're doing this well if your scorecards are mostly green, if your rocks are moving mostly to on track, if they're green, if your L10 meeting ratings are getting consistently rated a 9 or a 10, if you are clearing out 8+ real issues every week. Think about that, 8 issues every week, even 50 weeks out of the year, that's 400 issues that got cleared out. It starts to really build momentum. And participants do not want to miss the L10 and feel it's important. This is a meeting that people are going to look forward to coming to, not a meeting of, oh my God, we're going to have another meeting where nothing gets done. Okay? That I can promise you. Great. So if you'd like to see more videos, my contact information is here with Outpace Enterprises. You can reach me via email. I love if people want to text me if it's time sensitive. You're certainly welcome to call my cell at any time, and would love to help you out any way I can. Thanks for attending.